going on, everybody? Welcome back to Carson's IH Garage. Today I'm going to show you how to completely rebuild your steering box. This is the parts to my Ross steering box out of my 1965 Scout 800. I know Scout and International in general use different steering boxes, but I know that Ross is the most common and it's one of the more difficult ones to rebuild. So hence the rebuild video, and I'm going to show you how to do that in pretty good detail. And I'm going to use the term rebuild pretty loosely here because some of these parts you can't get, like the sector shaft here, or the Pitman shaft and the sector shaft here. And so, you see mine is kind of worn there, and you can feel like a little bit of pitting, because there's where the bushing rides, and this has a groove here and there occasionally, and this kind of has a little bit of a chisel to it, but I was able to work that out, and I'll tell you how to do it. And I don't have bearing races. Like, I don't have new ones of these for the ends, but I do have a brand new seal for the bottom of this, and I have new ball bearings for that, and I have new bushings for the inside of the steering box for the Pitman shaft. So I'm going to show you in detail what to buy and or how to install the new pieces, because I had to get help with these bushings because you needed a press and everything, and I couldn't film it, unfortunately. And second of all, my apologies for the late video. It's been kind of hectic with losing power up here in the Northeast with all the storms and whatnot. Hopefully I'm back and you'll see this video Tuesday, Wednesday of this week at the latest. So we'll see. But alright, so I'm going to talk to you guys now about what to buy and what to replace when you want to rebuild your steering box. Okay, so the first big thing is the bushings. So these are brand new bushings, as you can see there. There's one at the top and there's one on the bottom. And I was able to get these bushings from Straight Line Steering, which is a company out in California. And I told them I have a Ross steering box. I gave them that number. I painted this, by the way, and I had all the footage for like stuff I'd done before, including the teardown, and it got lost for some reason. I don't know. Like I said, my apologies, but anyway. So I told them I had this steering box, and they said, you need these two bushings, right? And do they measure around 1/8 of an inch, yada yada on the measurements? I said, yes, they do. So they sent them out to me. I think it cost me like $50 to get them to my door, and I was able just to get them tapped in, but the old ones had to be pressed out because they were just kind of tricky and old and a little thin, so those worked out nice. And it's really a world of difference between like what it used to be, where this had so much play back and forth inside of here, whereas now it's within the 5 thousandths range, 3 to 5 thousandths range. As far as like specs go for this box, which you can't find any, so if it's better than it was before, call it good. Alright, so there's your bushings. Next is your ball bearings. So these are just plastic retainers, and they ride inside these bushings. There's one here, and there's one on the inside here that doesn't come out really unless you want to take it out, but I have no reason to. And so what you're looking for when you want to replace these is, there's all my old ones. Take it and measure it with the digital caliper, and the closest thing this matches up to, like decimal wise, is 5/16 of an inch. So if you go to the hardware store, find yourself 20 or so 5/16 ball bearings and give it a measurement. So let's see if I can show you guys. Okay. Alright, so there's 0.3120. Those are the new ones. And my old ones here. Stop rolling away. 3.110. So these are, a little bit smaller, and they're a bit worn out. Some of them have pitting, some of them have scoring. So it's best just to go and spend like $5 to go find some new ones. And then you have this here. This is your Pitman Shaft sort of thing that rides inside the groove here. And this is what gets changed, like spring loading wise, as far as like how it sits inside here, and that messes with like the mesh of the gears and even like how tight it is or and whatnot. It's just a little adjustment piece, and I'll show you how to adjust that once it's in the vehicle, and you can kind of feel around for it. And so there's that, and then you have shims here. These shims are still good. I'll wipe them down a little bit, but otherwise they're fine. And that's just to give the sector shaft a little bit of bushing so it could spin freely. And then here's the end cap for the sector shaft, and it has this little seal in it. And I don't have a new one of these. You can't get these anymore. I actually didn't ask Straight Line Steering, but they might have them, so there you go. If you're looking for those, but mine is still pretty good, and it's still pretty pliable. So I'll just pack it with grease and call it good. It's not like it goes under so much load. I mean, it just sits on this polished piece of brass. So how good does it have to be? You tell me. Okay, so we talked about bushings, bearings, that seal. Now this seal. This seal is the one that kind of trips people up the most, and it's the one that always fails, because it's the most exposed to like the elements and stuff, like when you're driving, like heat and snow and whatnot. Depends how much you drive your Scout, but because my one was a plow vehicle, the bushings were worn slap out, and this seal was garbage. So this is National Oil Seals Federal Mughal, part number 50151S. I got this from Advanced Auto Parts. I think it was like $10, and it fits perfectly in the bottom here of this on that ledge there, and it will stop your steering box from leaking. So if you just want to do this, it's easy enough. You could probably do it while it's in the vehicle. If you pop your cover off and you pop your Pitman arm off, if you have the little puller for it. Mine was really easy to pull off, but I didn't have the tool, so I took it to a buddy's shop and he did it for me. But it's easy enough just to kind of pull this out, and so you get this out of the way, and then I think I pulled mine out with a screwdriver, and just gonna install it with a socket with a little bit of blue Loctite. So nothing fancy to do that. And then I was able to save my original gasket, but I'll put a little bit of RTV on there just to be safe, just kind of skin it, so it's got something to stick to in some areas. But unfortunately, you can't get this and you can't get that, and I'm sure you could get this spring, but like it's still pretty good. And you could even like stretch it out a little bit if you need to. And then you just have these shims that don't really wear out. So it's a pretty non-wear-outable, if that's a word, kind of unit. So basically, like, mine is somewhat of an extreme case, but yours, like, that was just used for normal driving, you know, throughout its life, isn't going to see this much wear, you know. So replace what you want to at your own discretion, but this is what I've been able to find to put together, and you know, so I'm gonna be happy because it's gonna have no more play, it's gonna look good, and I know it's gonna be fully functional because, you know, I messed with it, I touched it, so I'll feel confident driving with it. So it'll help tighten up my loose steering. And then everything else, I just gave a coat of paint here, and then I'll put the whole box back together, screw everything down, and then I'll kind of tape off the little adjuster nut, so I leave that bare steel, and I'll tape off the little oil fill, so I leave that bare steel in case I have to fill the oil and obviously adjust it, and I don't strip the paint off of it just because it looks crappy afterwards. So I'd rather have it be bare metal, with a little bit of like a coating on it. Maybe I'll clear coat it, we'll see. But I'm gonna get my service manual, and I'm gonna show you guys how this thing goes back together, and then I'll set you guys up and I'll put the thing back together, and you'll see kind of how it's supposed to go. But other than that, it's not one of my most detailed videos or even really helpful videos by any stretch, but I figured I'd give you guys the information to rebuild your your box out of your Scout in case you were curious, because there's no real information for these. So yeah, let's get to it. Alright, so you saw me there put together clean up the steering box a little bit. There's just a little bit of paint and grease and whatnot. So now I'm going to show you how to put your stuff back together as far as your sector shaft goes and whatnot. So best thing to do before putting these parts back in is just wipe them down. Nothing special. Here you go. Just like that, to pull any dirt out of it. Maybe from sitting, or maybe you just didn't clean it yet, but I've hosed this stuff down and brake cleaned many times, so it's as good as it's gonna get. And one thing to mention too, you want to make sure this surface is clean, because that's where your seal rides. Oh, sorry, because this is where your seal rides are, this surface. You want to make sure this is clean too, because this is where your on your steering column, where you're this little oh, it's over there, but this little doohickey slides on the splines and engages with the rest of the steering box and turns this. So yeah. So next thing you want to do is you want to take your bearings here and give them a quick spray with some gear oil, because gear oil is a little thicker. You could also use assembly lube, but that's a little too thick in this case. So just kind of coat that around. And then on the inside here, we have our bearing race. And so just gonna plop those in there, hold them in, and I'll just kind of feed it through here. Just be careful kind of not to like nick the things too much on the edges, but it's aluminum, so you're not gonna hurt it too much. So that slips over that, and there you go. It's in there, right there, and then do the other one. So there's that. Just gonna wipe these down. Okay. Yeah. Looking pretty good. So same thing as before. Got our race here. Put in our oil there. Lift that back up there, and then clean your race. Just make sure there's no crap in where the bearings ride, because it'll just get ground right into those bearings, and you know, God knows. So a little bit of oil on that too. And there you go. There's that. So then we have our cap here, which is all cleaned up already. And then that's got kind of an insert that sits inside of here. And then we have our shims, which I think are a tad rusty, so I think I'm just gonna throw some WD-40 at them and wipe them down. And then just a word of advice: here's the thin shim, and here's two like thicker shims. You're gonna want to sandwich the thinner shim on the inside, kind of in a stack, just so the thinner shim gets compressed by all the other ones, versus, you know, make too much of a clearance or too little of a clearance when you torque down these bolts. So I'm gonna clean these up a little bit more, then I'll put them in. Okay, so I went ahead and put my shims on after I got them cleaned up for the most part. And then I'm gonna take a little bit of grease here, not a whole lot, and just sort of fill it in and just kind of scrape it on the inside of the box here, or the seal, and that packs it in good. And then put that on, make sure my sealing surface here is clean, and just slide the whole thing on. There we go. Okay, now there's that, and then I have my hardware here, and it's these shorter bolts that just thread in right into the case. So throw those in. And I did clean these up ahead of time. That was part of the lost footage there during I don't know what happened, but, you know, whatever. So this one had a little bit of crap in the threads, but not gonna worry about it. Okay, so I'm gonna thread these in the rest of the way, and you're just gonna want to snug them down. Maybe use an impact to give them one or two sort of clicks or whatever. I don't know any torque values for these though. It's a bolt going into an aluminum case, so you can't over tighten it. You'll strip the threads right out of the block of the box. So then what are you gonna do? So use your best judgment when it comes to that, and then I'll show you how to put in the Pitman Shaft. Alright, so I got my service manual here, and here's a nice diagram of our box here. So you see, this is where we are at this point. We got our shaft in with all our pieces here, and then we have our Pitman Shaft here, which gets this cone-shaped piece, which I'll show you. The spring, that flat piece, and then that's our bushing there that's already placed in our box there. So that's how that goes together. So let me jump to lubrication so we know what we're going to put in. I can't find it. Hold on. Stand by. Nope, too far. Anyway, whilst I find it here, I hope you guys are having a good week. It's been a little hectic over here, but I'm not complaining. Anyway, fill steering gear plug, SE545999. Type gear lubricant. So I have a good plethora of 80W90, so that'll work just fine. So yeah, just gonna fill that right up. Okay, easy enough. Always keep gear filled to plug level, keep vent clean and free. Should check gear periodically for leakage. Easy enough, guys. That's what we're due. So let's get back to it. Okay, so first things first, I got gear oil in here. That's what I've been using the whole time. So just gonna trickle that in there, and then all along inside those grooves there, and then in the back. Okay, and then I already have the shaft rubbed down with oil, but clean it, put better oil in it. Okay, so there's that. And then I have my bearing cup, or not bearing cup, but like bushing cup thingy, and then my spring, and then my washer thing. There you go. Okay, so as you kind of maybe sort of saw there, I installed this. Just be careful not to nick your bushings too much when you're sliding this in, but I think I did fine. You're not going to hurt it really. And so this is spring loaded, so I have a clamp holding it up just like that. And so I'm actually going to set it up in the bench vise there and fully like lock it down, and then my plan is to mark where this sits directly halfway like this, and mark it on the outside of the case so I can line up my Pitman arm again, and I can align my steering wheel with a little coupling piece that goes here. So I'm not too sure how I'll accomplish this. Maybe if I put it in the vise and like press down on it, and I mark the shaft maybe that way. We'll give it a shot. But I'll probably just put a white mark on there for now, and then I'll score it with something so when I paint over it, my marks don't disappear. So I'm going to set that up. I'm going to mark it real quick off camera, and then I'll show you how to throw the cover on, and then tape up the pieces that we don't want to get painted, clean up the rest of it, wipe it down in some mineral spirits to clean up all the grease and oil, and then I'll go outside and I'll give it a coat of paint. So yeah. Okay, so there's it set up in the vise here, and it's able to shoot at the end. I made my little marks and whatnot. And before I forget, this this piece here that rides inside the sector shaft had like an edge worn into it. Like it's supposed to be a conical, like round piece like that, and it had an edge worn into kind of where that little bit of pitting is right there. That's where it was kind of worn in, and all I did was take it and put it on my wood lathe. Actually, come on, there we go. And I put it right in the chuck, and I just turned it, and I took kind of like a fine file and some sandpaper, and I just worked out that edge, and I reduced the diameter by a little bit, but you know, I was able to clean it up really nice, and it seems to engage really nice. It feels really good, so I'm excited about that. And then unless yours is kind of badly worn in like mine was, never take this apart, because it's like impossible to get it back together. It took me like a couple hours just to get all the little tapered bearings in there. And the trick of it was to kind of hold this in the middle while you place in all of them. And I don't even think the friggin' things are equal. Like this side takes 13, that side takes 11 or something like that. And maybe they're equal. I can't remember. This was a little while ago. But it was terrible, so word to the wise, you never know. Anywho, so there's that, and so now I'm gonna slap on the cover, and I'll get this adjusted. I'll show you how to kind of feel for that and how to do that and whatnot. So here we go. All right, I actually got ahead of myself there. Need to put in your little seal here, and so obviously the text on the outside of the seal is what's going to face out, and the sort of edge is going to face in to keep you know, the stuff inside. So all I'm going to do basically is grab a hammer, slightly tap it in here, and then I'll use a socket to get it the rest of the way in, but just looking to get it started. I'm gonna grab a socket and seat it the rest of the way. So it looks like maybe an inch, 15/16. We'll see. I'll show you what I grabbed. I ended up grabbing a 1 1/8, and it fit nice over, so I just booped, put it in. And so with that installed, now we can throw a little bit of just gear oil in there. I might as well throw some grease in there. Slide the shaft back in, and then throw the cover on for the last time, hopefully. Okay, so I topped it off with gear oil up to the fill plug like the service manual said. And the trick is that you want to back off the nut far enough to thread in your adjuster until it gets tight against it, like that, and then you want to just back it off a touch and then tighten down the nut and just check that you don't have a lot of play. But right there, you can move it like that, and I'm getting direct movement with no loss of like no slop or anything, and my end play is perfectly within spec. It turns beautiful, everything like that, so should be all set. So now I'm going to go ahead and tape off some of these parts, and I'm going to paint them, and then I'll meet you back when I'm finally ready to install it back in the Scout. So stay tuned. Alright guys, so I got the steering box all installed. The way you do it is you point your steering wheel straight, and you figure out kind of where your little coupler piece lies there, and then you set your steering box directly half, so hence that mark that I made there. And once it's at half, you slide everything together, make sure everything is seated fully, tighten down the mounts for the steering box, and tighten down your coupler shaft there, and then slide on your little your boot there to keep any dust out of there. So that's all. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you found it helpful, and tighten up that loose steering of yours if you have it. If not, it's an easy rebuild to do in an afternoon if you collected all the parts together. So hope you enjoyed. Take care, stay safe everyone. Thank you.